a written production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.
Somebody's nice pen.
Yeah, please do. Welcome, everybody, to the August 4th SAC meeting. Kevin has requested that at the beginning of the meeting we have a video. I don't know about you, but anytime in class when I was in school, when the teacher said we had a video, I got really excited. Kevin, I'm hoping this is great.
So, pictures are worth 1,000 words, right?
Oh, yay! Let there be late. Wow.
Well, that takes care of our pool.
Great.
Even though Lakeview didn't order
When did they start that this morning?
9 o'clock this morning.
Well, they're on time, that's what they said.
Where did they put the water? And now where's it coming from? They have laying on the black. Wait, we're going to have
This part of the lake is
people who left the drink and are coming back.
so in case you're wondering, the construction is not complete, but this part of the lake is deep enough where we can pump water in there for a couple weeks before it even gets close to where we're wrapping up the shoreline construction behind that banner building on 105th. So we have started to refill the lake.
Where is the water coming from?
The golf course, we have a series of irrigation ponds,
Okay.
which we started the pumps up early this morning. First pond overflows into the second, into the third, and then underneath Cameo into the lake.
Incredible.
They still had cement pieces in parts of the lake. Is that for the fish?
Fish habitat.
They were just mounds.
Yeah,
That's all they were. They weren't
it's
heights.
pieces of the old shoreline.
Okay.
Yeah,
So that stays, okay.
yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't pipes though.
There's a lot of stuff in there, you know.
It looked like just
But it's where, it's when the fish spawn, the little fish need a place to hide so they don't get eaten.
Yeah.
So we can wait for the monsoon to fill it, right?
The monsoon will.
Is that the monsoon this year or next year?
Next year, I think.
Hi, everybody. Jean Totten, Communications Coordinator sometimes. Excuse my lateness. Gotta have coffee. Cell phones on quiet, please. Audience, guests, and committee. I believe that we're conducting this the same way we have the past two, where the committee is doing the chatting
Yes?
and guests are listening.
Yes?
How about we have a lot more committee members this week, so if everybody would introduce themselves. And I think that's it. There's a committee sign-in sheet going around. Please sign in for me.
Right here.
Yes.
Thank you.
We need it over here.
Lana Williams, I'm president of the Country Dance Club and representing dance.
Norm Dixon at large.
Russ Coleman, Long Range Planning.
Dave Clausen, tennis.
Tammy O, mini golf. Elsa Will, Aqua Fitness.
Bill Laszlo, Players Club.
Jeff Darbitt, board.
Susan Chatterjee, a neighbor of Mountain View.
Karen McAdam, board.
Paul Higgins, Mountain View neighbor. John Fast, board.
Anita Borski at large.
Bruce Halverson, president of Sundown Men's Club.
David Grove, pickleball.
I'm a guest.
Wants to be anonymous.
Do we have anybody else?
Nobody's joined yet.
Okay. Jeff, do you want to introduce the new agenda?
Sure.
Okay.
One comment, please, everyone, speak loudly.
Are our microphones even turned on? Because they don't.
You got mics? Oh,
We're not using those.
you got mics, everybody. Use them.
We do, you know.
So we updated the agenda, which I passed out to committee members. Didn't have any for the audience back there. But today, what you'll see on here, and I'll walk through the front page as well as the back, that includes the activities that we have. And actually now, this week and the next 2 weeks, which the next 2 weeks are no meetings. However, there's some important work taking place during that period of time. One is we've retained the services of an architect, and during that 2 weeks, she'll be using that to do a site evaluation. At that point in time, she's going to join the committee on the 25th, and she's going to facilitate the discussion so that we can come to a consensus on what the plans are. And that will be done over a 4-week period that you see on the back side of the agenda. And that will give us in a position so that we can make a recommendation by the end of September. The second thing that needs to take place during the next couple of weeks, which I listed in here, is if you recall back in early June, there was a presentation like Karen gave us that talked about why we didn't go with option 2 for the Mountain View Center. And there was a long list of things that she went through in her presentation, which are all valid. And one of those items was, of course, its cost. So one of the things that the board needs to resolve in the next couple of weeks is exactly what the new budget is for this SAC. So that when we get together with the architect and we come up with ideas, I'm sorry, we do not have unlimited funds. So, but the board needs to decide how much of the funds that they have can they allocate to this, given all the other requirements that faces the Sun City organization. So there's a lot to be done. So the board kicked that discussion off earlier this week, and we have more discussion and analysis to do. But when you come back on the 25th, not only will the architect be there, but we'll have a budget for what that we can do our work. So, John,
Great.
unless there's questions that people have. And also, I just want to say at the bottom on page 2, it kind of highlights what are the activities that we're going to do during those 4 weeks. So, but the architect will be leading those discussions. Okay? Yes?
Question, you said we have to determine how much money we need?
How much money can be allocated?
I thought we knew that.
No, we do not. The last budget that was done was 2021,
And what was that, 29 million or whatever it was?
27.5.
27. So that number is no
May not
longer...
be valid. Now, there's a couple of things that happen in every organization, and ours is no different, right? One is we need to always look at that budget in the context of all the other things that need to get done. And we've just gotten information from management on what some of those things are. We need to take that into consideration. But quite frankly, the big surprise for us in 2 years is inflationary cost on construction. So if you thought something was going to cost 20 million, it now costs 30 million. So that's the facts of life. And so now 2 years go by, and by the time we get something built, another year goes by, even if it's 5% inflation. We need to, the board needs to really think this through carefully so that we always make sure that we have funds for not only this project, but the other projects as well. Unless anybody wants to, like donate $10, $20 million and look for a
I
tax
didn't bring my
deduction.
checkbook, I'm
Where's
sorry.
your-
I didn't have mine.
I didn't bring my check.
Maybe after tonight.
You don't, me either.
My question, my confusion is, if we come up, whatever we come up with, and it turns out to be 23 million, and we've spent all this time to come up with 23 million, which we won't know until we get bids.
No,
What if we find out that 23 million is too much and it should have been 20?
we're going to know through this process with an architect, we're going to also have the services of professional cost estimators. We're going to have a good estimate of what we do. So when we're talking with the architect and we're talking about what are things that we want to include and the functionality in the building, we'll be able to price it out pretty close.
But how do we know that that number's not too, I mean,
We're gonna get it, the board's gonna say you got this much money.
okay, we're gonna get that
We're gonna say
first.
this is what we can do.
Okay.
It'll be up to us to decide how do we maximize
So we
the
will get a
benefits.
number from the board?
Yes.
Okay.
And the board needs to have that discussion
Okay,
before we meet on the 25th.
okay.
Hang on one second. I'll take a committee person first. Yes.
Somebody's supposed to speak.
Money would get it going.
Are we limiting ourselves to one architect's vision of what can be done and what cannot be done?
Yes, in this part of the exercise.
Is it the same architect we had before?
No, it's brand new to Sun City.
Okay, good.
So, but just to elaborate on that,
Go ahead.
we actually received bids from 3 different architects to do this conceptual design, and this is the one that we chose of the 3.
Okay. Yes, Jean?
I just wanted to know, do you feel it's important to put up that document that Karen did, because it is on our webpage?
It is. It was at
And you
the...
could bring it up, and they could, if you need to refresh memories.
Okay, if we do, it was at the June 2nd meeting, in case anybody wanted to look at the document that she presented. Was there a hand up in the back?
That was my question. How long is it?
Oh, I'm sorry. I made a mistake. The questions today are only from committee members. I can talk to you after.
I just wondering.
I didn't hear him. Okay, I guess that's all I had, John.
Okay, I've just got a couple opening remarks before we open discussion. As I'm open to feedback, I was recently reminded that I let the committee get off point on some discussions. I'll try to do a better job. And I know this is obvious to all of you, but this process involves advocacy. Okay. And we all must recognize that there are several different versions of the future Mountain View and Longview being advocated. Each person is free to advocate their vision as zealously as they want, but please recognize that advocacy involves putting your view in the most favorable light. We also must remember that we're committed to making data-based decisions for the good of all our members and must be free to debate conclusions that are drawn from data. The end product of any worthwhile committee, including this one, is a recommendation supported by well-reasoned application of supporting data for it. And I think, Jeff, you mentioned this. The Finance and Budget Committee will be presenting a recommendation, and this may be the board, not the Finance and Budget Committee, on how much we can afford to spend here, and you will have that information before we take our next step. Where's that button? There's that button. Okay. I guess the other thing, I'd just like to try to recap what I think I've heard being debated without in a completely objective fashion. And that is the seating capacity of a theater is being debated. The location of a theater is being debated. There's build the club or the theater that was designed at Mountain View is one of the options that was presented. Build a smaller theater at Mountain View is another. Renovate the existing auditorium is another. As far as I've heard, and you can debate this, none of these alternatives involve building a gym or a large rotunda. At Lakeview, there's being debated that we should build the theater there because it is a centrally located, aesthetically pleasing destination point. Let's try saying that fast. Some would extend this to include remaking Lakeview into an entertainment district. As to pickleball, the vision being advocated is to build an indoor-outdoor pickleball pavilion larger than Marinette at Mountain View. The size of the facility envisioned currently cannot be built if the theater is built at Mountain View. So we have to recognize that there's trade-offs. As to Mountain View mini golf, the club has the vision of recarpeting their mini golf course. As to Mountain View pools, the vision being advocated is to add a spa, repair and rejuvenate the existing pool, and possibly add a combination sports and lap pool. A fitness center at Mountain View is included in all these proposals. And I guess I'd just like to throw that out and see if people think I've adequately summarized what's been presented.
Yeah, you said only renovate the current pool when we were advocating for a new pool.
So there should be another option in there that advocating for a new pool.
Yes.
And the main thing was what would be the cost to renovate it as opposed to putting in a new pool.
Thank you.
I did get that information. And this is about $500,000.
To renovate? And we don't know what it would cost to put new.
No, I don't. I can't get any information.
That's also an architect thing as to whether the current location of the current pool would interfere with other things we might want to do.
Certainly.
Because it's kind of sitting there in a sea of concrete right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, certainly. Yes.
Okay, so does the mini golf recarpeting also include a few things we asked for as far as some safety changes?
Yeah, there were like 2 or 3 other safety things, but they're add up to nothing.
Minimal,
Yes.
I've been off grid for a month, and am I understanding you right when you're saying that eliminating the all-purpose gymnasium?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, I want to know why, because our numbers are double. And that's not an exaggeration. Pickleball players. What gives them priority over a club? Clubs that have been in existence practically since the beginning of Sun City and have done nothing but grow. Every year they have grown, and we do not get the usable floor space. You say there's plenty of flat space, but it's not usable flat space for some clubs.
So what I hear you saying is that you want to have that gymnasium put on the items that are still being discussed?
Say it again.
You want the gym flat floor space that was in option 2 to be put in items that are still being discussed?
We need that floor space. I'm not saying that. Pickleball, I agree. Pickleball is a growing sport. Absolutely. I agree with that. But not at the expense of other clubs that have been around a long time. You're saying pickleball deserves an indoor court, okay? What about other clubs? I'm just asking questions that I said I've been gone for over a month, and I come back to this. It's kind of disturbing.
Yeah, I'm just trying to recap what I thought I heard the discussion over the last month to be.
When the committee voted, there were only 2 of us who voted for the gym, the committee members that were here.
How many people were here? If there's only a few people, it doesn't really count. You know, that's not the majority of the people. Yes, it was.
We had a quorum.
We had a quorum.
But that is going to decide whether a club that has double the number, now double the number, is less important than another club.
What transpired was we went through a process where we took the straw man vote. In other words, where is everyone's sense at a given time on given amenities? That's all I could tell you, and the vote was...
7-5.
What's that?
10 to 2.
10 to 2.
On that.
So it's not absolutely set.
All I can tell you, that's what transpired.
So it can change once they have heard more argument about a club that needs that flat space, usable flat space.
Mm-hmm. Again, as I point out, it's advocacy, right?
My memory, which could be wrong, tells me that we talked about a 12-court pickleball facility, an indoor facility, not anything more than that.
was no
Not any more courts at Mountain View.
Indoor.
Is it 12 court?
Outdoor.
outdoor.
Yeah.
Outdoor plus 12.
No,
Indoor or
no
outdoor.
decision.
We were talking 12 out, 12 in?
No, we were talking a combination, a possibility of 12 in or out, depending on our budget
12 total.
availability.
12 total.
Plus the current outdoor
24.
ones. So it was a total of 17, 16, 17 courts?
Oh, yes, I do remember 16 now. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's that, what has taken away the gym is pickleball inside.
No.
No.
No. What's taken away, that my understanding, what would take away the gym is if we kept PAC at Mountain View, which
We have one
PAC is
Mountain View.
priority. And so PAC gets first, and we build around it. So if the PAC doesn't stay in Mountain View, and if there's money for a gym, it could be reconsidered. But right now, that space that the gym would take is PAC. That's the way I understood it anyway, that when the discussion's been going
Space
on.
is space.
Hi. Well, I don't say very much here about pickleball, but I want to say we are not against dancing or anything like that. What we need is another center for pickleball, and Mountain View seems to be the place to have that. We just want to add more pickleball courts there, up to 25. The decision for a gym or not the gym really isn't against pickleball or dance. It's just what's the best for Sun City.
I have a question. You say you have double the membership,
Double,
so you have over 2,000 members?
yes.
In your dance?
Counting the dance clubs, a lot of these dances, it's not like they all go to the different, these people don't go to the same dances. A lot of our dances are on the same night. So you can't go to, belong to one club, belong to the other, or you can, but you still need the space. One time we had 600 people at the vice president of the Line Dance Club is here right now, and he can, testify to that. One time we had 600 line dancers at Sundial. You tried to move that many dancers into a narrow fairway.
These are all club members or people attending free dances?
We have over, I think our last count, I didn't bring the numbers with me, over 500, how many members?
Line to 600.
Yeah, members of a line dance club.
Okay, I think we're getting off track in as much as we're saying what is still, I tried to summarize what I thought I heard, and what I'm hearing now is there's a strenuous objection by an advocate that we need a gym at Mountain View.
Or do we want to vote?
Another thing, okay, they have that big, the automotive place where the car club used to be. I don't know how large that is, or if they can make something there. We need the space. It doesn't have to be at Mountain View, but we need that floor space. Because the Line Dance Club, I think I figured they must have lost, they had to move about 60 times last year from Sundial to Fairway. That doesn't work when you've got an instructor down here and everybody else is down there, has no clue what's going on, because most of them have a clue, but they need an instructor to follow.
Okay, I'm going to get back to, in terms of the summary that I presented, what you're saying is that there's a strong advocate for flat space
Is now joining.
at some place. And there are two avenues for that, and I won't get off point. One is to put in a club request. The second is this committee. Yes.
I would suggest that since you've been gone so long and you're dropping numbers around, that you make a short presentation either now or some other time that give the numbers that your group has. But you say you got double the membership. I don't know what the membership is. I don't know what the other membership is. So I just think we need to collect some more data. If this is new information, then we ought to have it based on some data.
Yes.
I want to make a point too for your benefit, Lonnie. We talked about if we can renovate what is at Mountain View, that's why they're going to look, the architect and the engineer that they're just tired. They're going to look at the existing auditorium there, if they can change the floor, if they can bump that building out, what can be done with that building
That's
to
all
make
they
it
have
a
to
dance
do.
floor?
They
For
just
you,
need a
like you
usable-
have at Sundown.
We just need a usable wood floor.
Right, I know you do.
Can't dance.
I know you do.
understand because you're a dancer.
I do, well, now I am, yeah, but.
He's a dancer.
I'm a-
Now to get off point, can we,
Yeah.
can we see a little demonstration?
No, the pros are here. Couple.
So it's just, if they can change that
That's what I said.
and wood floor, bump it out a little bit, whatever. I mean, that would help immensely.
That's what we're going to look at. That's what,
And I guess I would say that, like any committee, what you will be charged to do is to make a consensus recommendation, which will probably mean that some people don't get what they want, some people do get what they want, some people don't get all of what they want. So that's all I can say. Your voice is not muted.
It's not loud.
Other discussion?
Can we go back to budget questions?
Sure.
Okay, just so I understand. The board's going to look at the finances, and they're going to determine what kind of budget possibly we could work under. Is that a budget determined on, will it be like a split budget, where there's a budget if we just work at Mountain View? Would there be a budget that if we work at Mountain View and Lakeview? Because if you're going to give me 23 million and tell me go build something at Lakeview and do something at Mountain View, I need to know, is that going to cover it? Versus if I'm working in Mountain View and 4 years from now I get a different budget for Lakeview. Does that make sense?
We don't have the answer to that yet.
Okay.
Okay,
Because
just
I don't want
making
to
sure.
take
We're
away
just
budget
studying
from
things at
Mountain
the
View
moment.
because we're thinking we're going to go to Lakeview. I want to see the money we have projected from Mountain View with a little budget set aside that if we move to Lakeview, this is where it would be.
Yeah,
Okay. Sorry.
I agree with you.
I'm having a real difficult time. We know we're going to have less money than we got. We couldn't necessarily build what was drawn before because that was too expensive. But we're at an impasse, it seems, in some areas where the theater needs 600 seats and pickleball needs 20, I forget what you said, 25 courts, and you need a gymnasium.
We need a dance floor.
Dan,
A dance floor. Who's going to give up? We're going to have, we just can't do all this. Doesn't matter where we put the theater, we don't have enough money to do all these things.
How do we know we don't have enough money or that we're going to have less money? They haven't looked at the numbers. They haven't looked
Well,
at
we have numbers from before, which doesn't really, that included a gymnasium. It didn't include 16 pickleball courts. It included a much larger theater.
And I understand that, but inflation, inflation, inflation.
Exactly.
And we need to understand how many houses we're going to sell, how does that impact the PIF? And so to say we're not going to have as much, I don't know that. You know, maybe.
But your
we're-
PIF has been projected out many years already. If we sell 5,000 houses tomorrow, that's future PIF.
right.
That's
Well,
not
I
current
think we
PIF.
need to wait until we have a
Right.
talk with the architect and we're hearing actual numbers from the board and actual numbers from the architect to make the hard decisions in the end.
We're talking about going to Lakeview with the theater, and I don't have a problem going to Lakeview with the theater. I have a problem with where you want to go. I don't think it belongs in the corner. I think it belongs where the lawn bowling is. I'm sorry, Norm. But I think that's where it belongs. We have, as far as I know, 2 green spaces in Sun City. And one is on that corner where the trees are. And the other one is that small area by the softball field.
So you have the hill.
What?
You have the hill. That's the green.
They have excavators. They can make that hill flat. That hill could be to the advantage. I just don't want to, and we don't know what the setbacks are going to be on a commercial building there.
Yeah, I think right now we're saying Lakeview or Mountain View for the theater. With Lakeview, there would be a series of other decisions.
2 possible sites.
Sites at Lakeview. So it's not Lakeview fits one theater and all, but it's, yeah. So again, just trying to summarize what I think we're we're talking about. Eric?
Yeah, I think just maybe some clarification is that the Mountain View Option 2 plan envisioned an addition of 29 pickleball courts.
Oh, I'm sorry. Here, here.
Thank you. So the original Mountain View Option 2 plan actually envisioned an addition of 29 pickleball courts, but in 2 different locations. 13 at Lakeview and 16 in Phase 3 of Mountain View. Okay, so what pickleball is saying is that, Dave, you correct me if I'm wrong, is what you're saying, you would prefer to have it in one location.
Right.
25 courts
Right.
would be what would happen. But the original Mountain View Plan 2 actually envisioned an addition of 29 pickleball courts.
Are we still willing to do the phases?
That's
Or
the
do we want
phase
all
of
at
the
once?
Karen, that's on
We're gonna have to
3
cross that
phases.
bridge, but
Well, what do we do in phase 1 then? Maybe that's where we should be.
that's what we'll focus on.
Yeah.
You're right.
Way ahead.
So what was in phase 2 in phase 2? I don't know.
Excuse me, does it have to Mountain View Option
Yes.
2? So Phase 1 was the combined building, a theater, rotunda, gym, and fitness.
Okay.
Phase 2 was the water, Phase 2 were the water areas.
Okay.
And then, as Bill Cook often said, there are 102,000 square feet left over for Phase 3. And they had envisioned putting in a 2-story pickleball building there with 16 courts in it on 2 floors, so 8 on each floor, an ADA compliant mini golf course, and maybe something else. But those plans were not,
Presented.
they were at a very conceptual stage. But that was what was going to be Phase 3 of Mountain View.
So shall our discussions be on phase 1 only? That's what I'm asking. Is that where we are?
Well, we'll have to see where the money takes us in the moment, you know?
Aren't we a little, we're not, we've definitely have a 3-phase plan.
Well, I gotta keep you on track. One time, please. All right, you bet, guys.
Isn't it a little early? Because we don't know what we're doing to say what's in phase 1, 2, and 3.
Right.
We got to look at the whole.
We need numbers.
I just don't want to build somebody up and say,
Bill?
we're going to do a gym, and then the gym happens to be phase 3.
I've got the floor. Did everybody get a copy of this thing that I sent out? I sent out email, and also you have a copy for your hand. I've been gone for a couple of weeks, so next week I'm going to contact this school and see if I can get permission to view their theater. And anybody that wants to come, my email address is on the SAC committee member list. Email me if you're interested in going, and I'll get back to you how, when, and where. But as you can see, this one here is 600 seats, and it was 10.5. It wasn't 40,000, it was 10,000, or 10,500,000. So that's a big, big difference. And the biggest problem we have is from what the long-range planning and the ad hoc committee originally presented to the board was a list. Nothing more, just a list. Somehow between the board and the architect, it got blown way out of proportion. So I don't know how that happened or why it happened, but it happened. So we have to live with it. But we have to get that out of our mind. That's good, done and gone. And there's no way we could ever do all that stuff that they want. But we can do this, and we can do a lot of other things. But we need to stay focused on what we can do, not what we can't do. And I'll take it upon myself to find out if we can tour this, and anybody wants to come and see it. And then the other things we should wait for before we make any rational decisions is the 2 weeks that we have for the architects. That's going to be a wealth of information, and save your itty-bitty or nitpicking questions for them. So that's all I have to say.
Jean has a...
Well, John is disagreeing with me, so perhaps my point is wrong. But it seems to me that presented on November 18th, 2021 at a board meeting and approved by the board was the PIF budget for several years. And on that, it didn't say build a path, build pickleball courts, have a gym. It said Mountain View Center replacement. It did say phase 1, And then in 2023, it says Mountain View Center replacement. So that total is and then in 2024, there's another 7,000. It is not, I'm sorry, 7 million. It is not saying specific things.
Right.
And I'm sorry, I just had to put my 2 cents in.
What was the first thing you paid?
No, 2,000.
Oh, 2 million.
Just,
2 million.
just to keep it light, Gene, your 2 cents added up to $27.5 million.
So hopefully that's,
Yeah, inflation.
But,
thank you, Gene.
yeah. So to that point, John, you said inflation is what's hurting us. Inflation would affect how much we could get for that money. What I'm wondering is how is inflation removing some of that money from us?
We don't
Because you're
know.
saying the numbers might go down as to how much our budget is.
Yeah, we-
So, I mean, I understand inflation. Inflation might mean we can't get everything we wanted because we can't get as much for 27.5 as we used to. But why are we now talking that inflation is the cause of us getting less than 27.5? What's the inflation
Well, because
effect
inflation
there?
affects all the other things that we do.
So you're saying other things you're
Everything's affected
budgeting.
by inflation, not just this project.
But if they were also budgeted,
What other
then why aren't they within their budget? We're supposed to be within our budget.
Everybody has to
I
live
would
with it.
suggest that instead of us speculating on this point, let the board finish its work. We'll come back and lay it out clearly for you and the community. So,
Next.
Next, is there any other topics? I know, I apologize that we didn't get word out that the architect couldn't join us for another 2 weeks. I hope you rejoice in the fact that there's no meetings in the next 2 weeks. It'd be nice to get, if you, it would be nice if you had the opportunity to get up to some place that was cool, without internet,
heads together.
and enjoy a little bit of your summer. So, is there anything else, that burning subject that people want to discuss? I'm open, everyone's open.
Who dialed in?
Steve Oaks.
Steve,
You don't recognize him?
Folks.
Pardon me?
You don't recognize him? It's been a while.
Oh, I see it as a phone number. I don't see a face. And every now and then there's a bit of noise.
Steve, is that you?
There's a Band-Aid over his camera.
One thing I-
Steve?
He's probably on the lake fishing.
Yeah? Can you hear me?
Is there?
Now we can.
Yeah.
Yes.
we
Okay.
just wondered who was wandering back there.
We can't see you though.
Yeah, no, I was not able to get in on the LinkedIn, Teams LinkedIn, so I just called in.
Okay.
I must not have any.
Voice only, but I figured that would, keep people from being too here.
Very good.
Okay.
Well, I had one thing. Norm drove all the way from Prescott for this meeting.
Yeah.
And I haven't heard him say anything.
But he got donuts.
And I'm sure that he's got a lot on his mind.
You may have to take him out for lunch.
Yeah, I don't know what's appropriate now at this time, because, I was expecting to talk to some experts, and they're not here, so I'm not sure where we are.
I'd kind of like to know what the brief is that the architect that is coming in has gotten from the board.
The briefing? You mean, what?
Where are they coming in at? What have they been told that they're coming into, and what are they?
I guess I would answer that we have kind of left it as a blank slate. They want to look over the site plan. We've told them, basically outlines of things being considered in completely objective terms, and that they need to work with the committee.
But just for me to, the board hasn't told them anything, or told this person anything. The only one that's met with them is the 3 co-chairs.
I think I could add to that this architect has done a tour of Sun City that involved looking at 5 centers. So there were 2 centers that we passed over that aren't really part of this question at all, but came and looked at 5 centers. She's aware of the work that the SAC is doing, of the composition of this, group being composed of people who are representing activities that are impacted by this. And she actually has quite a bit of experience in leading groups like this. This is not a new thing for her to sit down at a table with people that don't necessarily agree with one another. That's one of her strengths, and she actually showed us some pictures of what she would do. She would have, 24
Storyboards.
pieces of storyboards up on the wall here, and as she's interacting with people, taking things down, putting different things up, I think that's one of the things that attracted us to her work, is that I think that she will be very, very helpful in helping this group to come to a consensus, even though the consensus might be two different plans. And so she is aware of that, and she that's the reason that we're turning the committee time over to her starting on the 25th of August.
And she has access to all the videos. For our meetings.
And she also has received the best site plans that we have for these two facilities already.
And with any luck, Mike sent them to her.
Yeah.
Yesterday.
Yeah, so Mike, we could scan them all in, everything that we have, and it's not the most up-to-date site plans.
1970s paper.
That's what it was built.
Because she realizes that she has to do her homework first, so when she comes on the 25th, she's not going to be a stranger to, tell me what you're trying to do. That will not be the situation. She understands very much what the things are, but one of the things that I think is important that she told us on Monday is that she said, you guys are way ahead of yourselves in terms of detail. Okay, so she said at this stage, what you should be doing is thinking like a block. A box for a pack, a box for this, a box for that. Don't yet get into the details of how many bathrooms, how many seats, exactly how are you going to configure this box to weigh numbers of seats against backstage areas. She said, we're too early in the process for that. So I think what she's going to help us do is to figure out how we get to some kind of a consensus about something where there are blocks in place of the items that we want to have in particular locations.
Karen, I'm wondering if it would be helpful at all if we get measurements of the, a sundial is 3 sections. If we know the measurements of that center section, that's the section that the line dancers and they all use. If we have the measurements of that section so they know exactly the kind of floor space and dimensions that we need, would that be helpful?
I think we have that, Kevin.
We have it.
Yeah.
We have it.
Okay. Am I correct in assuming that we gave her the list of all the boxes we want?
Well, no, because we haven't really agreed to that yet.
Yeah.
She's going to help us in the process of
Define those boxes.
defining what those boxes should be.
Nothing's been said.
But she will, it won't be a surprise that we'll say, well, afterwards, oh, well, you actually can't build that there because of X, Y, or Z. She'll know from having looked at the site plans what's legitimately possible in different locations. So that's the place where, the question came up, what if we decided to build the pack at Lakeview and ended up tearing Mountain View down and putting something else up only to find out that you can't build the pack there. Well, that's the reason that we're enlisting the help of a professional who's going to be able to tell us, actually, it's not going to be difficult to build there, or it is. She'll be able to do that for us based on her studies of the site plans before she even comes on the 25th.
And she's done this kind of public work her whole life. I mean, as opposed to a private contractor who our private party, you say, what do you want, like Del Webb? And he says, I want this, and that's what I build.
Right.
She's been through the public process, which we thought was a very strong indicator in her favor.
I'm going to ask you 3. In the interview process, does she have the engineer services or the structural person that can look at our existing buildings, say, like we talked about?
And the answer
Yes,
is
she will.
Good, all right. So she's going to look at that.
That's what she's doing now. That's why I sent her the drawings.
Right.
I think that, did we, there's no reason that we can't tell you who she is, right?
No.
So her name is
No.
Marlene Mirzian, so I-M-I-R-Z-I-A-N, I think, is that right?
Yeah.
Did I spell that correctly? So if anybody wants to to check out her website.
I forgot to put it on the agenda.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Marlene Emirzian.
How do you spell that last name for everybody? slowly?
Imirzian, I believe.
Oh, you'll remember that one easy.
I was a middle school spelling championship. No wonder.
I got it.
Doesn't count last name.
We'll just call her Emma, actually. Sure.
On there.
I'm from the land of Polish names, this is easy.
That's good.
It doesn't end with ski, though.
No, but Shabilsky starts with a P.
That's good.
So, and that's kind of where we are. And we've got the professional help we need. We've had a lot of great discussions. We're going to have more in a couple of weeks. She's also gone to a place in the upper peninsula of Michigan where there is no internet and nothing else. So she will have her whole vacation to look over these plans.
When is she going, next week?
I think she's gone.
Because I'm going there next week, I can maybe meet up with her.
Oh, wait a minute.
On a weekend.
Bill, they want to help me.
Can you explain this? It says committee members, are committee members supposed to be?
Oh, Jeff on 8-4, there's a question.
Well, it says,
That's today.
5-year rolling strategic plan, then it says committee members. Are these committee members supposed to be involved in that? Or is that the long-range planning?
No, it's in the context of what we're explaining in the finance and budget.
Okay, all right.
Okay, well, if
Okay.
you had your donuts, sugar high is good. Can we adjourn?
Take the donuts.
We are adjourned.
Thank you for doing it.
Over you.
This is a copyrighted production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.